So we got some spooky lighting here tonight. It's hot in Texas, so this is the time of year that I become nocturnal. I figured I would do a pretty simple video doing some heel work with all of the training dogs I have right now. This is a really good group of dogs for that video because everyone is so different and you can really see some of the different behaviors and different personalities that can come through for training dogs. Just got back from the gym, so my brain is not going to be working very well. It'll be a fun training video nonetheless. We're gonna start with Cafe. She's probably my easiest dog I have right now. She's very food motivated. She's very excited to train. She's got a really good attitude for training. You know, we've definitely had some hiccups and things, but overall, especially at the point she's at now, this is like a dog trainer's dream dog. I am going to be working her off leash on the e-collar. She's just at that point. Some dogs reach that point in 4 weeks. Some dogs don't. I have, you know, minimums for dogs to complete in 4 weeks, but if we can go farther, we're going to go farther. And as I said, she's a super easy dog to train. You know, she's got her quirks, but she might pick up on some things faster than others. Cafe, heel. Good. So Cafe is going to be working just for her kibble because she is happy to do so. Some of the other dogs, you know, we have to up their pay grade to get them excited to work. Good. She's just got full-on just dopamine eyes right now. It's great. Heel. So when we're training dogs, you know, it's hard when you're a dog trainer. Heel. Because you do have to remember that, like, ultimately, heel. My job isn't to make friends with these dogs. It's to teach them behaviors, teach them confidence. It's kind of like a student-teacher relationship. If your dog sucks on the leash, they're pulling, they're biting at the leash, heel. They're just kind of going crazy. They're not paying attention to you. That issue in itself is not an issue with your equipment, your leash, your e-collar, your flat collar, your harness, your prong collar, whatever you're using, heel. Literally doesn't matter. The leash has nothing to do with it. It's a lack of understanding of the behavior itself. So when I stop, I expect dogs to sit, right? Because sit is the stationary form of heeling. Notice where she's at. So with heel, which is walking on your left side, could be your right, mostly it's usually the left, at your heel, right? So that implies a loose leash, but my leash has nothing to do with this scenario. Good. This dog understands the position of heel. If I'm just looking for my dog to walk loosely onto the end of the leash, there's a lot of gray area right there, and the dog doesn't have a clear understanding of what's expected to them because they can be pulling on a flexi leash that's like 25 feet long, and then suddenly, good, you make that leash 3 feet long and now they're pulling on it. Or you can have a 6-foot leash with a bungee. That can also be like a confusing thing. Good. So the real key to having a dog that walks nicely beside you, heel, is all about teaching the position. See where she stays? Like, I haven't even been buzzing her on the e-collar, nothing. Good. She has good positive association with this behavior. She likes to be in this position. She's willing to be in this position. This is not me forcing her in this position. Now, as a dog trainer, we're going to get dogs that aren't as excited to train with us. Good. Maybe they're a little more environmentally focused. We'll see a dog that's like that. You know, he's still happy to work with me and things. Good. But he's definitely like, all right, I'm enjoying this, but I'm doing it because you're making me. And then we'll also have dogs, yes, that are fearful. And they're like, this isn't my home. I don't know you.
That's my purse. I don't know you.
And unfortunately with dogs like that, you know, we have to kind of take a moment to ourselves and understand, like, this is a teaching relationship. This isn't a you're my puppy and I love you relationship. I still absolutely, you know, I love all my client dogs. It's not me saying I don't have emotional attachments to them. But, you know, especially if you're a dog trainer, that can be really frustrating because it's like, you're going from a dog like this, whose tail is like literally sweeping my sidewalk right now, to the more nervous dog. And it's like, I got to change the tools in my toolbox a little bit. I got to do things a little differently. So you always have to be able to kind of accommodate for what the dog needs, because it's your job to give that dog the best chance at training and learning. It's not about having the bestest relationship with them. If I can get a good relationship, I'm going to get a good relationship. Sometimes it doesn't happen, and that's okay. Cafe, heel. She's crooked, right? But notice where she is, right? She knows where the heel is. Free. I'm just not going to reward that because that was gross. Well, that wasn't gross, but that was not ideal. Cafe, heel. And we'll see if she tries harder this time. Good. She's a smart lady. She's like, can I be a little bit lazy? The answer is no, you can't. Good. Sit. I do want to talk a little bit too about training equipment. So there's always someone yelling about training equipment online. Good. Yes, good girl. You know, you have very anti-prong collar, anti-e-collar people. Free. You have very anti-everything people that are just like, the dog is a dog, let it be a dog. My opinion, you know, I am a balanced trainer. I use tools. Again, as I said, like, you do have to be able to change what you're doing based on the dog. That's why I never subscribed completely to one training method. I fully believe that you can learn a little bit of something from anyone. There's a mosquito over here. If you can't stop talking long enough to listen to what people have to say, you're not going to get very far in this industry. But training tools, again, like, they don't matter when it comes to our heel work. I look at it as turning up the volume on my phone. So if we start with something like a harness, that's very low volume, right? The dog really can just pull into that chest piece. They don't really care. Same thing with like a nice wide flat collar. That's why if you see like protection dogs working, a lot of times they're on a big flat collar or a harness. It makes it very comfortable for them to pull against. But then if we turn up the volume a little bit, we'll have stuff like martingale collars, or greyhound collars, they're also called, where they constrict just a little bit. And then you start having things like slip leashes. So slip leashes are what I start all of my training dogs on. I do that for a couple reasons. One is safety. The dog cannot pull out of a slip leash. It's going to constrict. There's pros and cons to all of these training tools for sure. But you just got to figure out what works best for your dog. Another pro of the slip leash is there's action to it, right? I can give my dog a little bit more feedback on that than I can with a flat collar. If the dog's wearing it correctly, there is a correct way to put on a slip leash. You have pressure coming in around this side of the neck, not the trachea. It should be starting on this top side of the neck. And that gives me a little bit more communication to the dog. Turning up the volume even further, we get to things like Star Mark collars. Those are going to be a little bit more uncomfortable for the dog to pull against. It's going to be a little bit easier for me to get communication to the dog. Larger Star Mark is going to be less adversive than the smaller. And then we get into prongs. The larger the gauge, the less adversive the collar is going to be. So a 3.0 prong collar is going to be less adversive than a 2.25. Now, when it comes to things like Star Mark collars and prongs, not every dog needs them, right? She works just fine off the slip leash, to be honest. But there are some dogs that the prong collars just work really well for them. It's like all of a sudden you feel like the dog is really hearing the behavior. Now, these collars and harnesses and all kinds of things are not substitution for training. Again, like you saw Cafe went into the heel position. You saw her staying in the heel position while I walked. No leash, nothing, right? And then we also have stuff like e-collars. If I have the choice in sending my dog home with a prong collar or an e-collar, I'm going to send them home with the e-collar. Honestly, most of my dogs get sent home with the e-collar if it's something that isn't super crazy adversive to them. I do have dogs, and you'll see one that I know without a doubt are not going to thrive off of an e-collar, so I don't use it with them. The reason I like using my e-collars is, one, everyone in the house's correction is going to be the exact same. Everyone can put the collar on level 1 and hit the medium button, and it's going to feel the same every time. It's a way to correct the dog without having to go up near the dog or touch the dog, so it takes the person out of that correction. So if I have a dog that's on place, I'm not coming up and rewarding you by giving you my space. That is a reward, right? Dogs like us to interact with them. I can kind of remotely correct you with e-collar. I also like that the e-collar doesn't provide a whole lot of physical pressure to the dog. If that actually, it doesn't provide any physical pressure really at all. So any dog that, you know, if you have a bolting dog that likes to hit the end of the leash because it gets scared, I have a dog like that right now, they're not running into a prong collar, which if your dog does that, really shouldn't have them on that equipment. You need to work through that, but that's another conversation. Bust up some myth, people. If you have a proper piece of equipment e-collar, I'm not talking about you paid $20 off Amazon. Those are not good e-collars. Like something like Dog Trust, Sport Dog, e-collar technologies, Garmin, Martin Systems, the nice products, you're not going to be able to cause physical harm to the dog with the e-collar. I would never do it, but I could put the collar on the highest level possible and hold it, and it's not going to burn the dog's skin. Any of the reactions you see online are either a metal allergy from the contact points of the collar, or that collar was left on too long. That is going to be a drawback of the e-collar, is that you can't leave the collar on 24/7. The dog does need a break or they will get pressure sores on their neck. I recommend owners putting the collar on first thing in the morning, taking it off last thing at night. I don't want my dogs getting collar smart and they realize, oh, I only have to behave because the collar's on. I want them first to behave because they like it and they have a lot of positive reinforcement. But I also want them to just think that at any time, you know, that correction could come if they're not performing the obedience command correctly. But again, I'm going to say it again, none of these tools work if your dog doesn't have a full understanding of the behavior. I'm not putting dogs on the e-collar on week 1. I'm waiting until they have a really good understanding of what they're doing. This is Mav. He's more of a higher drive dog, right? So higher drive a lot of times can mean they're a little less sensitive. He's very environmentally focused, and he does take a bit more of a correction than a dog like Cafe. So Cafe is on the lowest level of my lowest e-collar. He is on my more stubborn dog collar, and he is on a higher level than she is, right? That's what works for him. Not every dog's going to need that. You don't need to just go buying the Boss model because it looks cool. But he does take a little bit more convincing to do things, and that's okay. There's different personalities, just like different people. So he just needs the volume up a little bit higher than she does for him to be able to hear the music. Mav, heel. Good boy. But you also notice that his, you know, some of his behaviors are probably a little bit sharper, and they have a little bit more like energy behind them than Cafe, right? You know, he's a Malinois. They're bred to be a little extra. She's not. So, you know, that's some of the differences we can see just between breeds. But really it's dog first, breed second. You'll notice with him, sometimes he'll throw these little fancy feet up. That's not a bad thing, honestly. A lot of sport people are looking for that in their heels. So it's kind of nice that he offers it for free. He's just a little extra energy, a little extra everything. Good boy. Now, if I didn't have an e-collar on him, good, I would have him in a prong heel, because that's what he listens best on. But I don't like sending dogs home on the prong collar. One, you know, again, corrections are going to be different when they're physical. Sit. Good. And then also the prong collar can be really difficult to use for a lot of average owners. And we don't want to add more difficulty to their lives, right? We want to make things pretty easy for them. Good. Because then they're going to do it, right? Then they're going to practice and they're going to walk the dog and do all the things that, you know, need to happen to maintain his training. A big thing I see with prong collars, good, is that they can be really difficult to put on. I see a lot of prong collars where just one link is on and it's just, they can pop off. Like they're just a big problem. Good. But if a dog needs it, I'll absolutely send them home with it. So that's what's going to be best for the dog overall. Heel. Down. Good. Free. All done. This is Koa, so we can see by her body language already, she is not, you know, the biggest fan of being here. That's okay. She is more nervous of a dog. It's a huge improvement from how she came in. She was bolting at the end of the leash. Is, you know, just super nervous, not really super excited to train. That's okay. Where the other dogs are working on their kibble, she gets the good stuff. She gets some nice cheese, trying to kind of make higher value things to make her a little bit more excited. I am not expecting this dog to be my friend. I'm not expecting her to love me and be super happy in training. But my job is to teach her these skills so that she can go home and love doing them and be happy doing them with mom and dad. So my job isn't to be her mom and dad. Now, this dog did not want to eat for the first 2 weeks that she was here, so she has lost a little bit of weight. We are working on getting her to eat more. I have her on a higher calorie food than what she came in on to try to bring that body weight back up. I don't think she's at a dangerous weight at all, but I would like to see her, gain a little and for sure not lose any more weight. I do want her to get a little bit more body fat. But we'll go ahead and do our training session with her. You'll notice that it's a lot more, baby steps right now, but that's totally fine. I'm here to lay the blueprints and create the behaviors, teach them to mom and dad, and then they're going to kind of work with her and make these behaviors a little bit more consistent, a little bit more high value behaviors. We want the dogs to enjoy the training. Koa, heel. So with her, I am using a little bit more leash pressure than with the other dogs. Good. This is also a dog that I'm not going to put an e-collar on. I don't think she's at that point right now. Good. She needs a little bit, of that more directive pressure to tell her what to do. Good. And, some of it too with our fearful dogs, no, sit, good girl, is they need that little bit of direction, right? If life is scary and I just kind of baby you through it, good. You're never going to grow confidence. So, if I baby her through because she doesn't like leash pressure, she's never going to be able to handle pressure. And there's times in life where pressure happens, right? Sometimes, you're scared to go through the doors of the vet and, you got to kind of do a little leash pressure. I want the dog to know they can yield to that pressure and turn it off. So I don't think it's wrong at all to teach a dog like this using leash pressure. I'm teaching her that she actually has control of her environment and she can choose what happens next. Being terrified of me is not an option anymore. I'm not going to chase her down or anything crazy. Good. But I'm also not going to go away just because she's not happy with me being here. You're going to have to deal with it at some point. Heel. Good. Heel. Good. Sit. Good. Heel. And you can see there, heel, even with like the crinkle of this plastic bag. Good. She got a little bit spooked. She's very twitchy. She's very nervous. Good. Good. Even if she doesn't want to take food at this point, she knows the behavior well enough that I'm comfortable working her without food. So like right now, she's kind of being a little bit of a baby and she doesn't want to take the food out of my hand because I'm so scary and threatening, and that's okay. You still have to heel. I would like her to be closer to me, but I'm going to also be a little bit lenient, sit, with what I'm accepting because I understand that she is scared of me. So there's kind of a little bit of a give-take relationship sometimes where, I can expect certain behaviors, but I'm not going to make her do things when I know she's already not having a great time. Good. Free. Koa, heel. So she sat a little far back. Heel. Sit. Good. So I'll just fix her. This is a very non-confrontational training session. She's nervous. It happens. Typically, I don't do a whole lot of videos with nervous dogs like this. Good. Simply because the internet thinks it knows more than I do in a 10-minute video versus weeks with the dog. So you get clips taken out and you end up on Facebook pages and stuff gets crazy. But what people tend to lack in understanding of, heel, is that dogs aren't sent to training, heel, because they're perfect. They're sent to training because there's something to work on. Good. Whether that's a behavioral issue or it's we need some skills put on the dog, heel. There's usually a reason why they're here. I think a board and train was a great option for Koa, to be honest. You know, some people might be like, that dog is fearful. Why would you do a board and train? She's never been away from home before. And we can't control, you know, I really hope it never happens for her, of course. But, you know, something could happen and she might have to stay overnight at the vet, or she might have to be boarded because the owners can't take her, you know, on a trip they're going on. Good. And I would rather a dog that's nervous, their first experience being away from home is in the hands of, you know, a professional trainer, sit, that knows, you know, how to handle things and not just, you know, coddle these behaviors. Good. Than for her just to be sent to, you know, maybe a loud boarding facility where they're like, hey, go into a play group, and she's just having an absolute mental horrible time. You know, she deserves to know, good, heel, that she can be away from mom and dad and she won't explode. You know, I'm not doing anything that isn't fair for her. Good. I'm just kind of doing a combo of holding her accountable and, you know, just not giving in to some of these fearful behaviors that maybe, you know, it could be genetic, it could be a socialization thing, and it could be that she's learned that it works too. A lot of times our dogs are scared of something and we're like, oh, it's okay, baby. And obviously she loves her mom and dad a lot. And so getting that extra attention from them, she's like, oh, this relieves the pressure. Heel. But I want her to know that she can, in fact, be a grown-up. She can handle things. Yes, good girl. See there, she's scared, but I'm not going to change how I do things just to coddle that behavior. I move around, bags crinkle, things happen. You're going to have to deal with it. Koa, heel. Good. Heel. Yes, good girl. Good girl. What I'm not going to do with the dog that's fearful like this, sit, is what a lot of people might want to do, you know, pet all over them, get on the ground with them, things like that. Good. I don't think that she's a bite risk. I can confidently say I don't think that she would bite me. However, you know, when a dog is nervous, good. That's always going to be an option. That's the natural thing that is right to do for a dog if they need to defend themselves. I'm scary right now. If you can't tell by this video that I'm scary to her, then you need to learn about some dog body language, right? So, you know, by me getting down in her face and getting into her space aggressively and putting my hands on her, that could, you know, elicit a nip or growl or some kind of response. That once the dog learns that that works, because naturally as people, if we get nipped, we're going to pull away really fast, or if you growl, I'm going to back away. If she starts learning that that works, this fearfulness is going to turn into fear aggression. Good. And obviously we don't want that. That's not a super big concern with her, but I do like to bring that up when we talk about fearful dogs, because I find that people, particularly in America, I've noticed, not that I've been many places, but like European dog culture is very different. You know, we just kind of assume that every dog wants our presence. Every dog, good, is rewarded by pets and loving and things. But like, think about Cafe, her session versus this session with Koa. Those dogs have very different ideas of what's high value and what they appreciate. This dog does not want me to be petting her. She wants her space, and that's okay, because again, my job is not to be mom and dad. My job is to be her teacher and show her what's appropriate, what I want out of her, how to do things, and how to kind of manage the scariness that's in the world for her.